Let's go ahead and get started because I know we're excited, and thank all of you for being here. This is Questioning Student Understanding with Quizizz Part 2. I am very excited to welcome back Claire Gillum from the Literacy Council of Tyler, the beautiful East Texas Piney Woods area that I love so much. I want to welcome back this beautiful lady, Claire Gillum, from the Literacy Council of Tyler, and I want to share her background. Claire Gillum is a distance learning coordinator, tech integration coach, and adult basic education and high school equivalency instructor at the Literacy Council of Tyler in East Texas, Piney Woods territory. She has taught ABE, HSE classes for 2 years, and in August assumed the roles of distance learning coordinator and tech integration coach. Claire is a Tyler native and enjoys giving back to her community through the promotion of education and literacy. She has a bachelor's degree in English linguistics from University of North Texas. Before coming to the Literacy Council of Tyler, she worked as a copy editor for an educational publishing company based in Tyler. Where were you, Claire, when I finished my master's? Currently, in addition to teaching GED classes, Claire is completing a master's degree in adult education from Texas A&M University. Can I hear a whoop? She is passionate about helping adults achieve their academic and life goals through literacy and technology. I am so excited to have her back.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for part 2. If you missed part 1, that's okay. You're going to be totally fine. Like Anne-Marie said, this is Questioning Student Understanding with Quizizz. So how can we use Quizizz to make sure our students are comprehending our lessons? Anne-Marie told y'all quite a bit about me, but I want to know who all is joining us today, who's in the house. So please take a minute to introduce yourself in the chat by answering the following questions. What's your name? What's your role in adult education? And then let me know if you attended part 1, because I'm already seeing some new faces, so we might do a review, but let me know just to get an idea if you attended part 1.
Let's see what we have here. We've got a whole bunch of different. So we've got PD coordinator. Tiffany Lee's here. Hi, Tiffany. She did not do part 1. Richard said, yes, I remember, Richard, you were here last week. She attended part 1.
Okay, sounds great. So keep introducing yourselves. I'm going to go ahead and do a little review. Like Anne-Marie said, I'm with the Literacy Council of Tyler. So just a little bit about us. We're in beautiful East Texas. We serve about 2,400 students per year in the Tyler, Texas area. Right now we are offering ESL and HSE classes face-to-face. We also have synchronous online classes on Zoom. And then we have an asynchronous online program. So for today, we are going to look at understanding and using several Quizizz components, such as how to create a custom quiz and read the reports from your quiz. And so in part 1, we talked a lot about why Quizizz. We talked about why it's important to check in with your students. So I want this part 2 to be a lot of exploring the website and really getting your site and your classes set up so that you can use it in your classroom. And then we'll also talk about using Quizizz for adult education and literacy learners. Quizizz was built for K through 12, but as many of y'all know, we often take K through 12 and adapt it for adult education. And I've been able to do that with Quizizz, and I think it works pretty well. So I also want to hear your ideas on ways that you can use Quizizz with your students once you get the hang of it. All right, so like Anne-Marie said, I want this to be interactive, and Anne-Marie is going to be helping me out with interactions, and so thank you for helping me with that. So if you see the share icon, that's an opportunity for you to share either in the chat or via those reaction buttons in the participant panel. And then, like I said, we're going to be working in the website. So I'm going to go through some steps. And when you see this icon, it means that that is a task that you will be performing. So just a quick review, why Quizizz? If you weren't in part 1, here are the cliff notes. Quizizz turns quizzes and worksheets into self-paced games. There are millions of quizzes on every subject already available for use. Instant feedback for the student, which we know is so important, and no grading required, which is music to my ears. I do not like to grade. Also completely free, which is another one of my favorite words, free. So no grading and free. Those were some of the main reasons why I started using Quizizz so much. Many other reasons as well, but we'll get into it. So I would like to know, have you created a free teacher account? Some of you might already have an account. Some of you might need to set up an account. So if very many people have not set up an account, I'm going to go through those steps and we'll take a minute. If anyone needs to set up an account, we'll allow a couple minutes for that. It's a pretty simple process.
All right, so Claire, we have 7 people that have set up accounts, actually 9, the number's growing, and then we have 2 that haven't. So let's go ahead and, yeah, so most people have, but let's go ahead and walk through how to set up an account. Because I think it would be a good review too.
Yes. So if you have already set up an account, I want you to be thinking while we go through the teacher's account setup, have you used Quizizz since part 1? And what was your experience? So if you already have your account set up, you can be answering this in the chat while we go through the teacher account setup. So if you do already have an account, you can be thinking about this question. And if not, I'm going to show you how you can set up an account.
Tiffany says, yes, I have. I've used it this week with ESL students.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. So how to create a teacher account. This is what the website will look like. If you just want to follow along on the slides, then you can go to the site to set up your account. And you can click this Get Started button if you don't have an account, and that will send you to the super quick and simple setup process. And like many of these sites, you can sign up with Google. I have Gmail, so I just click that button and it links, and it's just takes like 1 second. You can also, if you don't use Google, that's totally okay. You can sign up with the email that you do use. So you can choose one of those options. You'll choose that you are using Quizizz for school. And obviously you'll put that you're a teacher. And then it'll ask you to link with a school. Our program is never listed. These are usually, well, there's some literacy programs. Yours program might be listed. You might be with an ISD and they might be listed. So you might want to connect with your organization. If you're not with anything like that, you can just say not connected to a school, or you can add your organization if you like. If you don't want to add your organization, you can just say not connected to a school. So that's the teacher setup. Do we want to go ahead and stop and review and see how everyone's doing?
I think we're good to go. You guys are wonderful. And I will create mine later. Jesus says, okay, Jesus, okay, that's good. You guys are so patient with us. Thank you so much. No, created an account, but should I put a join code? No join code. Not yet. That comes later, right, Claire?
Yes, no join code yet.
No join. You're getting ready though, Juan, but not yet. All right, so
y'all are awesome. Great job getting those accounts set up. So again, I'm going to walk through a few slides just to show you the steps. So y'all just kind of sit back and relax. Don't worry about doing anything just yet. And then once we go through all the steps, we'll all go to the site together and complete the steps together. So yeah, this beginning will be kind of a review, and then we'll go back and we'll do it all. So how to use Quizizz. First, you'll need to set up your classes. You can create classes in Quizizz. Once you sign into your teacher account, you'll have this menu on the left, and there's a classes tab. And it'll ask you to set up an account. Or set up a class. You can connect to Google Classroom, or if you don't use Google Classroom, you can create a class. Either option is very simple. So if you do use Google Classroom, you can import your Google classes. It's a very quick process. And if you don't have Google Classroom, that's no problem. You can simply create a class, enter a name that you like. I do need to point out there's this option, require students to enter a guardian's email address. We're in adult education, so obviously you don't need to do that. So make sure that that box is not checked. And I have found that it still asks them for the guardian's email, and a lot of times they're like, what do I do? So you can get past that. It's just something to warn your students about, because I'm like, you're the guardian, you don't need permission. So that's one of those workarounds from K through 12 that we deal with. And if you don't have the Google Classroom, you can simply send students a link to join your class. So it's very easy. You just click that button and it copies the link, and then you can post that or send it to your students however you are used to doing that. All right, and then after you have set up a class, the next step is to assign a game. So you would need to create a game. So in part 1, we looked at finding a quiz from the library. And on this session, we are going to focus more on creating a custom quiz. So if you want something very specific to your needs, for example, if we're reading a story, there's sometimes vocabulary that I want to focus on. So it's very specific words that I need to create a quizzes on. So that would be a time that I would create a custom quiz. So in order to do that, you sign in and then you come back to your panel over here. Most everything you need can be found on this panel. And you'll click that big purple create button to start creating a custom quiz. And then it'll ask you for quiz or lesson. This is something kind of new. I have only really dealt with the quizzes. I'm kind of, I don't know, old school. I don't like change too much. But if you're interested, they have created these lessons. We're not going to get into them in this training because that's probably a whole nother training. But it's interesting. It's like you can create kind of a PowerPoint or slideshow. So definitely take a look at that if you're interested. But for this training, we are going to focus on a quiz. So first you'll name your quiz, and then you can choose a subject, math, English, science. And then there are question types, multiple choice, checkboxes, multiple select, where they can select more than one, fill in the blank, poll questions, open-ended, where they are writing short answer. And then this is part of the new lesson program. You can create a slideshow. But we are going to focus on the multiple choice, the multiple select checkbox, fill in the blank, poll, and open-ended for this training. So once you are creating your quiz, you can add questions. This is really cool. In the questions, you can use images, math formulas, video, and audio. So especially the image and the video and the audio could be really great for ESL classes. You can add answer options with images. So another great thing for ESL, the answer choices can be an image. And you can set time limits. Also, when creating a quiz, you can write your own questions, or this is a really cool feature. You can add a question from the teleport, this thing called teleport here. So you can pick and choose. Let me show you. So you can search for a topic and find quizzes that are already made. And then if you want to choose one question or two questions from that quiz, you just click add, and it adds that question. So, I'm kind of lazy. If I don't have to write a question, then I'm going to go that route, because sometimes, especially if you're teaching, basic educational concepts that are kind of universal, someone's already wrote questions on that. So why redo that work is what I say. So that's how you can add a question if you don't want to write your questions from scratch. And that is the editing process. You'll click a big done button at the top when you are done editing. And then once you're done editing, it'll ask you for some things like you can add a picture. It wants to know the language, and you can put in the grades. So whatever grade level or equivalency level. And then you can make it either public or private. If you set the quiz to public, then other teachers can use your quiz. And if it's private, it's just you and your students can see it. So that's up to you. Okay, we'll pause for questions and then we'll go to the site and we'll do all of these steps one by one.
All right, so let me scroll down. I've had several questions that I've been trying to help people with. So let me see here. I want to go back up to David. David had a question, and for Quizizz, and I thought it was a really good one. He asked, can you switch languages between English and Spanish? That was one.
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but once we get to the site, we can check that out.
Okay, so, and then I'm wondering, let me see here. David, go ahead. Did I miss one? Let me know if there's an, oh, here he is. Hello, David.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, the last slide you had on, I just noticed they had language down there. I'm wondering if that's the answer or not, but.
Okay, so this is it. They must have different options. You know, if you're writing the quiz, you could write it in any language that you want. So say if you wrote it in Spanish, this is an option where you can say this quiz is a Spanish quiz.
Okay, sorry, how did you get to this detailed part?
So this is going to be at the very end, and we're about to go to the site, and I'll show you how to get there. All right, so now let's all do it together. Yes, and so once you go to quizizz.com, it should look like this. They just updated their homepage again. And I think this pretty much sums it up, the 100% engagement platform. Ever since I've started using Quizizz, I can tell there's so much more engagement in my class. You can find and create gamified quizzes and interactive lessons to engage any learner. Definitely very interactive. So I am going to log in.
And Ashley just had a really good point. She said you can change the language and settings as well. So I guess, Ashley, you can change the language and settings for you, and also you can change the language when you're creating a quiz, right?
Wonderful. We need to take a look at that. Okay, so you are on your home page when you log in through your teacher account. Yes, sometimes you stay logged in. So first you'll need to set up your classes like we talked about. So over here on the left-hand side, you have your menu. And you can go to classes. And this screen should pop up here. So this is where yours might look a little bit different because I already set up this class here. But this is where you can either import Google Classes. If you use Google Classroom, I'm going to walk through those steps really quick. Once you click that button, Import Google Classes, you'll have a list of the Google Classrooms. It needs to be on the same Gmail that you use to sign up for Quizizz. So if you have the same Gmail, then it'll have a list of your classes on Google Classroom, and you can either select all, or if you only want to select certain classes. Here, switch account is where you can sign into a different Gmail if you have Google Classroom on a different Gmail. And this is where you want to make sure this box is not checked because you don't want to require students to enter a guardian's email address for adult education. All right. And then you click save. So really simple process, and then you should see your class over here on the left side. So if you set up Google Classroom, it's automatically going to sync with your students. They do need to be in your Google Classroom for them to sync to this class. So when you have a new student join, for example, I have new students joining almost every month. So as soon as a new student joins, you need to come up here and click Update Google Classes. Save, it'll sync it, and any new students will be added to Quizizz. And then if you do not use Google Classroom, that is okay too. You can just create a class, put in the name. Sorry, let me go back. This is if you don't have Google Classroom, you can create a class. Click that button, can put your name in there. Okay, this is my Monday, Wednesday class. And see, this box is checked. I want to make sure I unclick that because I don't want to require my adult students to give a guardian email. You can put color codes. If you have more than one class, you can assign them a color. Then you just click this button to create that class. Once your class is created, it'll give you a link and you can just click copy link and that copies it to your copy and paste, and you can paste that wherever you send out things to your students. So I'm going to pause for a moment. That is setting up classes. Are there any questions on setting up the class?
One other person was able to create their account, so that was awesome. And it looks like there are limited languages right now, so that's good to know. So, but as Ashley will probably agree, these digital tools change by the second. So tomorrow when you log on, there'll be some new feature, guys.
And David, I remember David had a great question in part one about differentiating students. He has several different levels in one class. So David, this could be a spot where you can create multiple classes, and then you could group your students based off of level. Like in our program, we do some classes are lower level, some are higher level. So if you send, or if you create one class with your lower level students, one class with your higher level students, then you can give those groups different assignments.
I'm just wondering, because you're talking about creating classes, you're not required to create a class, are you? Or are you required to do that now?
I don't think you have to create
Yeah,
a class.
because I think you can just create one, and what happens is it'll give you a link, and then you can still see the results because they'll put their names in as long as they're honest. So that's just another option if you don't want to take the time to create a class. So I just thought I would throw that in there. But I didn't know if it changed or not.
Yes, that's good to point out. I'm so dependent on using my classes, but if you just want to make like a one-off quizzes, you don't have to set up a class. Good point.
Okay, so we do have another great question. And Marlene asks, if I do not have a Google class, then I would first add students before sending the link to them.
So if you don't have a Google Classroom, you can just create a class. It creates a link to send to them, and then you're not using Google Classroom at all. If you want to set up a Google Classroom, you would need to create the Google Classroom first and then link it to Quizizz. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah. Well, my question is, do I have to first, like after I create the class, do I add all the students and then send them the link? When I send them the link, do they add themselves or do I add them first? That's what I meant to ask. Thank you.
You're welcome, Marlene.
So I think you can either send them the link. Oh yeah, so when you click add students here, it just gives you an option to copy the link. So that's the only way to add them, is that they click that link that you send them. So the only thing you need to do before you add students is create the class.
All right, so we create the class, Marlene, and then you can send them the link, and then that adds them. And I guess let's clarify this question, Claire, and that is, do students don't have to create a Quizizz account, do they? They can just be added to a class, or do they?
They do not need a Quizizz account. So a few different options. You can create these classes and send them a link to join the class that way. Or if they're in Google Classroom, they'll just be connected. So at no point does the student need to create an account. No.
And Ashley I think it would help everybody. Is there a link that you can put in the chat pod so we can see and actually have us join a class? Is that what you're thinking, Ashley? I think.
Yeah, just the link you just pulled up. Can you just post, because I kind of want to see from my end anyway. Can you throw that in the chat so that those of us who want to see what the student would see, that might be helpful.
So maybe that'll help. You can see what the student sees. Good idea, Ashley. All right, so let me know if y'all think I can move on from setting up a class.
And as Ashley confirms, you send them the link, and then the student then the student accepts the invite. Nice and easy on the student. Yes, I agree. All right, so it looks like we've got a lot of yeses coming in, a couple in the chat pod, so I think we're good to go.
Okay, so once you've set up a class, if you want to, it's optional, then you can create a quiz. So you come to this big purple button over here, create. And this is when it'll ask you, do you want to make a quiz or do you want to make one of these new lessons? And like I said, we're just going to stick with quiz today. So once you choose quiz from those options, you can put in a name of your quiz. I'm just going to make up something. I teach a lot of civics. I'm going to do American civics. And if I did something like civics, I would want to choose my subject, social studies. So if you want to go ahead and start building a quiz that you could use in your class, that's great. And then you can already have that set up. Okay, so this is where you will create your quiz. This is the quiz editor. You can have different question types. My go-to is always multiple choice. I'll play, well, I'm going to get to that later, but the way I do it in my classes, I preview a quiz with my students, all multiple choice, and then I have them putting in the chat their answers. So it goes pretty quickly, A, B, C. If you do something like open-ended during class, it might take a little bit longer, but checkbox is where they can select more than one option, fill in the blank, poll, or open-ended. So I'm just going to go with multiple choice just because that's what I use a lot. And so this is where you can create a question for your quiz. So we have question 1, and say you're working on the question and you want to change the question type. That's this little box here. So I'll decide I want them to answer more than one answer choice, so I can change it to checkbox, but I'm going to change it back to multiple choice. So here's where you will write your question. And then you can put your answer choices and these answer options here. And then to choose the correct answer, you'll see these check boxes next to it. So you're going to click the correct answer, and it'll give you 4 answer options. I believe you can do a minimum of 2, or you can add more answer options. Another cool feature, so you can add an image to your question. If you click here, it will take you to your pictures on your computer, or if you search the web and you have a link of an image, you can put it there. So I'm just going to put one of the pictures I use for the presentation just so you can get an idea of what it looks like. And once you get a picture you want, you can upload it from your computer, or you can put the image link, then you can click done.
Rich says,
so I'm going to put that image back up there just so y'all can see what it looks like. Okay, so choose an image from your computer or a link to an image. So you can see here on the right side, you are previewing what the question is going to look like. So it looks pretty good there. If you're a math person, let's see, you can add these math equations. So this is what it'll look like. So this is where it has the math symbols that you wouldn't find on a normal keyboard. So if you need a math question, you know, pi, you're not going to be able to type that in. So easy to insert math equation symbols. I'm not a big math person, so that's my knowledge of that. So you can also change the timer. I usually I don't mess with the time too much because there's an option when you're assigning it where you can change the time. So I really don't mess with the time when I'm editing the question. So that is creating a question. Are there any questions on creating a question?
Where is the equation editor?
So that's this, it has the function symbol here and it says math. So if you click this one up here, that is where you can add a math equation symbol to your question. And then if you need a symbol in your answers, you have them down here for each answer choice. So you can just click that and that'll bring up that math equation editor.
And Rich says he wants to know more about the teleport feature.
All right, that is our next step. Move on to that. If you do have any questions about the actual creating of the question, one more thing, there's these little trash cans here so you can delete answer choices. All right, so once you have your question how you want it, just click save. And then you'll see it there. That's your first question. So to create another question, just come down, click one of these options, and you can create another question. But Rich asked about the teleport. I want to show you all that. It's really cool. So that's this button right here. So say you don't want to expend the mental energy to write out all your own questions. I know we're all busy. So if someone has already written a quiz on it and they have a perfectly good question that you can use, why spend the time rewriting that question? So go to teleport, you'll click there, and you'll see the name of my quiz already pops up in the search. So it's already helping you out. It's already searching for whatever is in the title of my quiz. So it'll give a list here. These are quizzes that people have already made. You'll see the subject and the grade level. I wish you could filter grade level on here, but it doesn't look like you can. So I can click through. So this one has 22 questions. This one has 15 questions. So say I'm teaching a lesson on, I'm 8th grade would be good. I teach mostly ABE classes. So that's like around middle school academic level. So what if I just want the definition of civics? That's a pretty basic question that a lot of people might ask in class. So I say, yeah, that question looks pretty good. If I just click this add button, it will just add that first question 1 to my quiz.
Let me ask this question now because there was a great comment from Audrey. She said, I pulled questions from the public for my who, what, when, and how quiz. The public questions were excellent. So I'm wondering, can you put something even, does it have to be by subject, or could you put who, what, when, where, why? Do you see where I'm going with that? Or does it have to be by subject? That's totally rad. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this just searches all the quizzes out there. So whatever you're teaching, there's probably something out there.
Oh, there you go. So there's
the
your
5
quiz.
W's.
There you go. Is that the one?
Okay, I just want to use
says,
this first question. Just click add, and it adds just that one question.
Okay, so Audrey says her subject was English. Okay, so you can, but I think we learned something, right? You can search by a subject, or you can search by what you're looking. Let's put in fractions. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so it defaults to whatever you named your quiz, but you could search different subjects. So fractions.
There you go. Okay.
So here.
Right. Thank you, Claire.
And a caveat is you want to check the answer choices because, these were made by humans and the answer may be incorrect. So I've come across that in my classes where I assign a quiz and then we all get the question right and it tells us we're wrong. And they get kind of discouraged. All right. So that is it on editing a quiz. Any other questions? Once you're finished, you can click this done button up here and it's going to ask you some more questions. This is where you can tell what language your quiz is and everything like that. So I'm got my quiz how I want it and I'll click done. And it's saying I can add an image to my quiz. So again, you can choose from your computer files or enter a link to an image. And then this is where it has language. So you're creating a custom quiz. Say I wrote my quiz in Chinese, then I would want to let people know this quiz is written in Chinese.
That's awesome. And Ashley's got a really good point. She says there are pre-made GED quizzes that you can assign students for extra practice. So that's a good
wonderful.
Point.
So I'm an ABE teacher, so I usually put 6th to 8th grade on my grades, but whatever level you think that your quiz is. And then you can choose, is it public? So do you want other teachers to be able to see this, or private? It's only visible to you and your students. So I usually always keep mine public just in case someone wants to use it, but if you want it more private. Okay, so now you have created your quiz. How are you going to play? There are a couple different options. If you want to play live in your class, you'll do start a live quiz. And I always hit classic. Never done this one. I always just stick with the original. And then I'll have some options here. If you want to have students work in teams, it'll automatically put them on different teams. And then if you've set up a class, so you see assigned a class is optional. You don't have to have classes set up like Ashley said. So I have set up some classes. So I'll hit select there and then it'll give a list of your classes. You can select the class. And if you want to name it something different, like, you know, this week's practice or something, if you want, you don't have to give it a different title. And then a description if you want to, and then just click next. There are some other settings for the live quiz. If you want to check these out, there's all sorts of different things you can customize. We don't really have time to get into it today, but down to the bottom and click assign, and it'll look something like that. And then this is when your students will go to this link, join my quiz, and that's how they play live. If it doesn't give you a game code, I guess you can click that button. They'll need the game code to join the game to play. So that's how you play live. I would encourage you to get with someone, or sometimes I will start the live quiz on my computer and I'll join myself from my phone just to see what it's going to look like. So preview it yourself, check it out. You can also assign the quiz as homework, and that'll post it to your Google Classroom. If you have a class set up, you can set a deadline. So that creates an assignment, and so students do that on their own. I usually assign homework.
There's a good question from David, and he asked, how do you assign quizzes saved in your library to students?
Wonderful. So if you go over to my library, you'll see all of the quizzes that you've created. So I just created this one. So I'm going to click on that quiz. So then you'll see here, assign homework. And it even gives you a little note, asynchronous learning. So this is for them to do independently. And then this is an instructor-led if you want to do it live in class. Another thing that I do for my Zoom classes, I'll click this preview button and I just display the preview on my screen. And then I have students answer in the chat, what is their answer choices?
So Claire, here's a question. Can you assign the quizzes more than once to the same students? Like if they want to practice like automaticity for math, if they want to just practice like fractions questions, can you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So going back to the assign homework, it makes you put in a deadline. So to do no deadline, you'd have to get the premium. So I usually give them a week to do it, but if they've completed it and the deadline has passed, you would need to go in and assign it again. But yes, once you create the quiz, you can assign it however many times you want to whoever.
Okay. Yep. And Ashley just confirmed that too. Okay. Thank you. Thank you both.
So once your class has taken a quiz, either together or as homework, you can go to reports. And this is where you get all sorts of information. I actually need to go to my other account. So this is to check in and see how are your students doing. Sorry, let me log in with a different email. So reports. So I'm going to show y'all, this was from part 1. We did a Quizizz, and it tells you the name of the quiz. We played this live. These were assigned, and it tells you the class accuracy. It tells you which class played that. If you have classes set up, and then these have, the deadline has passed, so those are closed. So that's to get an idea, and then each quiz you can click on and it gives you more information, more detailed information. So Here we have the students that took the quiz, their accuracy. So this gives you some insight on how your students are doing. Are they comprehending your lesson? So this has been a great resource for me assigning homework in my classes to see, are the students understanding what I'm telling them during the lesson? Or are they just nodding their heads and saying yes? So I have created this Quizizz review. I'm going to do start a live quiz and classic. And just classic, continue. Awesome. So it looks like we have about 20 people have joined.
Thank you, Olga.
And I love they have this cute reindeer picture in the background. So I'm going to start the game. So you should be seeing on your screen here in just a minute the questions. Oh, and they have Christmas music. It is, and you can turn the music off. A lot of times, if I'm using it in class and I'm talking, I'll turn the music off so they can hear me. Got some people on fire over here. Awesome. I think we're getting close to finishing. People have already finished. Wow, y'all. Y'all are paying attention. Y'all are top performers over here. Look at all these amazing scores. Fire. And so here it'll show you 20 out of 27 have completed. All right, some people are still working, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off. Sorry, y'all, we're just running out of time so we can look at the results. Okay, so here it shows us our winners. Number one, Christmas. Christmas is number one in my book. Awesome. Congratulations to Johnny and Tiffy as well. Everyone did so good. Look at y'all, 100%. So that's fun. Confetti falls from the screen. So I hope you have thought of some ways you can maybe use Quizizz with your classroom, with your students. It's been a really great tool for me, especially teaching online.
Let's give Claire a virtual round of applause. Can we all do that? Use your reaction buttons and give her a big round of applause for me. Clap your hands. And I do want to say that I want to remind everybody, Claire is the new Tech and Tell presenter. And I'm so excited to have her in the cohort of presenters for Tech and Tell. Look for Claire to be back because, as I like to say, I'm Italian. She's in the family now, so she's not getting out, Claire. You're in now. So all right, everybody. Thank you so much. We appreciate you all.